Hello everybody. Today I'm going to show you about the unique timecode features of Cohler Classical. In the latest release 2.1, we now have a whole new timecode meter or window or whatever you'd like to call it. By default it sits up here in the left corner of the screen. Under Options, you can set the format. There are 5 different formats. In all of the formats, they are sample accurate. So the default format is hours, minutes, seconds, and samples. Then you see there's hours, minutes, seconds, frames, and samples. You can get just second samples, just samples, or frames and samples. So all formats, they're sample accurate. And when you change the time format, the ruler changes to match that. So let's go to the default format here, hours, minutes, seconds, and samples. And if I go to marker 1 here, you see I have that set at timecode 0 now. So that's 0 minutes, 0 seconds, 0.000 seconds, and 0 samples. This window of timecode can sit in the upper left corner where it is, but you also have the option of putting it in the upper right corner, the lower right corner, the lower left corner, or anywhere else you want. And in fact, you can unlock it from the screen and move it wherever you would like to move it. So with a simple click, Options, Timecode, Move to Next Corner, you can move it around the 4 embedded positions. So I'll do that. So now it's in the upper right corner. If I click again, it's in the lower right corner. Click again, it's lower left corner. Depending on which corner it's in, tells you how it's going to move if you move or resize the window. It always moves relative to the corner that it's closest to. It also, in the upper left corner, it moves relative to what is called the arrange view. So if I put it back in the upper left corner, I can drag this bar here to make my track control panel bigger or smaller, and it moves the time code correspondingly. I can also drag this here up and down, and it moves the time code correspondingly. So it keeps it relative to that upper left corner. Now, if let's say you want it in a totally different place, like you want it outside of this window, even on a different monitor, I could, let's say I'll make my window smaller. I'll now unlock this. To unlock it, I go to Options, Timecode, uncheck the lock in main window. So once I uncheck that, it now becomes a window that can be dragged anywhere and can be sized however you like. So if you want the time code really big, do that. And you could stick that on another monitor if you want. And anytime you want to lock it back in place into the main window, it's trivial. Just one click again, you go back to time code, lock in main window. And when you do that, it'll lock it into the corner nearest to where it is at that time. If you want to lock it back to the default position, which is the upper left corner, there's a command for that too, upper left corner here. There's a lot more to this timecode window too, besides the fact that it's sample accurate. We also have, coupled with the mastering capability, if you have CD markers in your track, you can set it to show you track time, which will automatically show you the time code from the beginning of each track, as well as intertrack gaps. Go to time code and say track time. Actually, it was already selected. Okay, so track time is on now. That means, since I have CD tracks here, at track 1 it starts at 0 and it plays. But if I go to track 2 of this CD, it's also at time code 0 and it plays. So that time code you're seeing is sample accurate time code. Now, if you want to see it frame by frame, because CDs are actually stored in 75 frames per second, you can tell a format to show it to you in frames, hours, minutes, seconds, frames, and samples. And make sure, if you want to see CD frames, you'd have to go into project settings under video and make sure that you're set to 75 as your frame rate, which is what a CD is. So now we're seeing actual frame accurate time code on your CD. If I go to track 3, again, it's 0. If I go to 4, it's 0. But notice there's an intertrack gap here. So this marker 10 is the end of the previous track. If I go to that marker, you'll notice the time code is negative 4 seconds and 8 samples. And as I play from there, it counts down the negative time. That's the intertrack gap on a CD. So all of that happens automatically. If I want to go back to normal running time, I simply uncheck that under time code. So I take off track time. Now you can see we're at 27 minutes, 52 seconds, and 56 frames. And if I go back to 1, I happen to have set this to 2 seconds. You can set any point on your timeline to exact 0 using a new command. On the CD, there's a 2-second pre-gap on the first track. On the CD player, it doesn't show you that time. It just starts from 0. So if we want to see that time from 0, we would set this point to 0. So I go to Options, Time Code, set ruler 0 to cursor, hit OK. It'll quickly restart, and it'll show it to you exactly at 0 at that point now. So you see that's now at 0. And so now any time I click on inside this CD is going to be exactly the time code that would be on the CD player. So those are all the various functions you can now do with timecode in Cohler Classical. It's also much more screen efficient. Everything in our design is designed to save you space on the screen. So instead of having this big REAPER transport panel across the bottom or middle or top, you have it out of the way in the corner, much clearer, and it's also correct. The actual REAPER transport time code is not accurate, but the Cohler Classical time code is sample accurate in all modes. So that's all there is to time code in Cohler Classical.